average stay or average the length of a youth pastor in America is 2 years. That's about, and so they always tell the young youth pastors that don't even sign your lease contract more than a year, because they may not be there. And so both our speakers today, they are exceptional. They are way on the other end. And so their experience, what their advice to the parents would be, we need to hear them. All right. And so first questions. And you probably have heard that the young people have left the immigrant church. This is speaking both for the Korean, the Asians, and all other churches, Asian immigrant churches. But they rather stay, they rather go to other churches, about half of them, and even a lot of them. But then we are a lot more concerned about the young people, our second generation, that stop going to church because they have lost their faith. Victor and Joshua, what do you have to say?
I'm going to defer to Victor first. I'll answer second.
I think this is one thing that we need to talk to our kids about more, and be open to the possible criticism that might come. But what I find is that a lot of teens leave immigrant churches because they don't see themselves as immigrants anymore. There's a lot of things that are changing. A lot of your kids see themselves more as Asian American than they do Chinese or Korean or Japanese or whatever other Asian country you might come from. So I think there's a lot that has to do with this picture in leaving an immigrant church. One of the major topics among Korean churches, and I've seen among a lot of Chinese churches, conversations, especially in California, there's a lot of conversations about spiritual or ministerial abuse. And so this has been something that has been talked about more so nowadays, but especially in Korean churches. We have a lot of Korean friends who in ministry are pushed around and mistreated and overworked. And if that's true for the pastor, it's also true for a lot of the volunteers and a lot of the younger folks as well. And so those are some of the reasons. Of course, there are many others, and I'm sure Pastor Josh and I will go back and forth about it. But those are a couple that come off the top of my head.
Okay.
Is it okay? Would it be okay if I code switch? Like,
what do you want to do?
If I code switch, if I speak a little bit in Chinese, because I think there was a question that said tonight's isn't in Chinese.
Okay. Yeah, you certainly can switch. Yeah.
OK， yeah， 我的中文还不错，可是如果说错了，请你们多多体谅。OK， 虽然我长得很像华人，我是华人，我是华侨，可是我不是 immigrant，right？ 我虽然是 immigrant， 的华侨的孩子，可是我是亚利桑那州人，所以我在 Immigrant Church， 我是第二代在美国长大的孩子，所以我在中国人的教会是因为我很爱中国人，然后我也希望我们的家长有他们到了年长的时候，他们还有一个教会，就是说我们年轻一代的开始养下一代的。特别是在教会里面，我们很多家长在自己的家庭里面都会觉得说这是理所当然的，对不对？就是说，以后孩子来照顾爸爸妈妈，那在教会其实也是一样，所以他们会开始离开。我觉得失去信仰，其中一个原因是因为在家里面有看到一个活生生跟神的关系，所以这个就是说。我们在家里面可能说一套做一套，我们可能有不一样的标准，我们希望我们一直 灌输给他们的就是说，你要追求的好好读书，你功课没有念完，你今天功课没有写完，你就不能去 youth group。你今天什么什么什么没有写完，你 SAT 没有考够高的分数，你就不能去退休会，你就不能去冬令营，你不能去夏令营。那这些就慢慢就变成说，我到了大学的时候，我的功课没有写完，我就不需要去教会；我的 project 没有写完，我就不需要参与教会。那所以这个从哪里来的？如果你问他们，他们宁愿 socialize，他们宁愿来教会，宁愿跟他们的朋友在一起。所以有的时候这个是不知不觉我们追求美国梦想的时候，却让孩子感觉到美国梦想其实比追求基督徒、追求基督、追求国度更重要。那所以这是一个陷阱 ，it's a trap that the devil gives us。魔鬼给我们的陷阱就是说，梦是睡着的时候才会发生的 ，right？ So God is trying to give us a reality。神要给我们的是一个真实的一个跟他的关系，却不是一个梦。So they prefer to attend other churches。他们会去其他的教会，是因为like Pastor Victor said, they understand they're not immigrants, they're American. 如果你的孩子在 Columbus 长大 they're Columbus people, they're not Chinese. So going to another church, they don't have to be Chinese. They can just be American, just like everybody else. So yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Victor, did you understand?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay,
think
okay.
I think going off of that，抱歉，我中文没有跟 Pastor Josh 好，我听得懂，可是讲的时候不太好哈。Yeah, I agree. For a lot of kids, for a lot of your kids, there's a lack of continuity, a lack of consistency between church, between home, between school, between work, and so and all of life. And so it's not just a spiritual difference in how we show or how we live out gospel life, but there's also a language difference. There's a cultural difference. And what we find and what I've seen is a lot of youth that are growing up in the church are very socially stunted. They're unable to keep up because they're trying to work in all these different kinds of cultures all at the same time, and the consistency becomes very difficult. I think it's even harder to say, well, the things that we do are Christian, the things that they do are not Christian, or that these are the Caucasian Christians or the American Christians are different than what we do.